Hello, everyone. I'm Ben Johnson, and this is the Perpetual Chess Podcast. On Perpetual Chess, I have weekly conversations with the chess world's best players, promoters, and educators about their lives, careers, current projects, and best practices. For more information, go to perpetualchesspod.com. Hey everyone, I'm here with Grandmaster Mesgen Amanov of Chicago by way of Turkmenistan. Mesgen, thanks for coming on the Perpetual Chess Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ben. It is a pleasure, and I actually did listen to some of your podcasts, and it was very, very interesting. So I'm, of course, not prepared. I don't know what should be done to be prepared for that. So it's more of a conversational, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, my main goal is to hear people's stories. Grandmasters like yourself are not exactly the target audience, but it does make me happy if you're able to pick up a thing or two or find it interesting to listen to one.
Perfect. Yes, I have lots of personal stories, and but the most interesting stories I heard is from the other GMs. Whenever they travel, I get to hear a lot of them. So
well, I think that's what, I mean, to the extent you're able to get into it, I think that's what people would be more interested in than anything. I mean, people really want a glimpse behind the curtain of the Grandmaster lifestyle. But we'll let you work up to that, because I wanted to start a little bit with your background, because you're from a country that I and our listeners probably don't know that much about. So tell us a little bit about Turkmenistan.
So Turkmenistan used to be the part of USSR countries, and in 1991, as we all know, it actually just broke down into 14 countries, I think, and one of them was Turkmenistan. I speak. My first language is a Russian language, and I do understand and speak Turkmen language as well. Although now living here in US for almost 10 years, I do forget, and my accent is getting terrible, the Turkmen accent. So, but how's it living there? You know, chess-wise, let's talk chess-wise in Turkmenistan. It's somewhat developed now. And we had GMs, we had IMs, we had international tournaments. But at some point, at age of 21, I moved from Turkmenistan to live in USA. It is just to continue my chess career. So I finished my high school at age of 15. Then I went to college. Then I went to university. So I was still young. I was like 15, 16 years old. And by the age of 19, I graduated college. And my major was chess coach, believe it or not. And this is such a rare thing here, because there's no such major in United States or any Europe. But in those USSR countries, there is such major as a chess coach. So with that, after I graduated that university, I went to Army, because this is obligatory. Okay, before we get to the Army, let's hear a little bit about what they teach you when you major as a chess coach. Yeah, this is an interesting point. So when I was submitting my documents, you know, there was no chess. So there was no sport as a chess, but I had to do the entry as a basketball thing. So I had to pass exam, and I had to shoot some three pointers, and I had to do some stuff. And then, I mean, obviously I was not on a amazing level, but I did do basketball for 4 years, before going to college, just because for fun. I liked it. And when they were admitting me to the university, they said, well, your basketball is not the best, but you're the only national master at this age in this country, so we need you. So we'll be happy to have you. So that's how I got in. And what they teach us, so the first year was actually just all the sports basically. You have to participate in boxing, wrestling, table tennis, running, all the swimming type things. So any sport that you can possibly, any Olympic sport, any sport, you have to have some idea about it. So you study those sports, you understand the psychology of it, technicalities and stuff, and you have these lessons. You're becoming a better athlete yourself because you're doing these things. And mostly what I liked on these lessons, on these lectures, my favorite one was anatomy and physiology and sports psychology. So those were my by far favorite ones. And of course, now I benefit from this a lot. I mean, the psychology element in chess is so huge that it really helps me through see not my opponents, but the students. I even joke with them sometime. So he brings the game and we analyze, my student, let's say, right? And I say, after analyzing your game, I even know what you ate on breakfast. And they laugh. So.
Right.
So, yeah.
So do you feel like it was helpful, the chess coaching major?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and first of all, it wasn't on my way of studying chess. You know, I could do basically any tournaments. I could travel, and I did travel while I was in college. Like while you're in school, it's like so fine to take 2 weeks off from school because you're going for the tournament, and they appreciate that. So you go, you play, you come back. So one thing, they're not on your way. Second thing, you really learn some stuff. Let's say I didn't learn chess there. That's the only thing I didn't learn in my school because that's something I learned on my own. You can't possibly learn chess in no one can teach you there, like to play chess. They can teach you things, how to work with students, how to work in groups, how to talk, how to present yourself and stuff. But learning chess, no, there's no way that you could do that.
Yeah, I mean, you were one of the strongest players in the country already, right?
Well, back then, no. When I just got there, I wasn't. I was just like a national master. But by the end of graduating it, at the age 18, 19, 20, I was the highest rated player. And that wasn't even my most professional years. I think I can talk a little bit about when I really started to work on chess professionally, because when I was 2200, right, I was 15 years old. I really didn't consider myself doing anything like amazing. When I started to work about 6 hours a day from the age of like 16 to 19. So I was working every day, 6 to 8 hours every night. So it was like school, you get back, you rest, and then I would go to my bedroom and study from 11 p.m. to like 3, 4 a.m. It was completely different schedule. But this is what I just enjoyed, to isolate myself and work on it. So, again, yeah, learning-wise, it had to be just by myself at home.
So what'd you study?
You mean the chess-wise?
Yeah, well, like on those 5-hour sessions.
Yeah. So my favorite thing was, of course, to study the books, the Grandmaster games. And I did have some coaches, but it's never like a private. It's completely different system. There, because you can't really hire a private coach. I mean, you can, but I mean, you don't have money there. You're living in Turkmenistan. What do you have? Like, all you do is just you're going to the group lessons, of course, and you have a coach, and he has like 10 kids, and you just play. You're just like doing some stuff. You're just solving some puzzles, and that's how it goes. But the real work is, of course, how you study at home. So when some people ask me, who is your coach, I really reply like, Mikhail Botvinnik, the world champion, Garry Kasparov, Nimzovich, Fischer, Alekhine. I say those are all my coaches because those books are just, and it's so hard to find books in Turkmenistan. You have no idea. Like here, everyone is spoiled. Like you have everything. You have any book you want in the world. You can just go Amazon, order it, or you can just go online and watch on YouTube videos, or you can just get some programs. You have everything. I mean, you don't really need a lot of money. There in Turkmenistan, there is just just imagine how hard it is to find a book. First of all, it has to be, of course, a Russian language book, and it has to be ordered from somewhere, from like a library in Russia, something like that. And there was no book in my house that, of course, I like would just stand on a shelf and I wouldn't finish it. I had to go over everything, every single page, and I would be like, by the end of the book, I would sit and cry out of happiness, like, wow, he was just teaching me. And now you have a sadness that you don't have material anymore to learn. So you have to like pass some time and find some book or magazine to study again. So yeah, it's not that the material was hard to find. Like no newspapers, none of that.
Man, that's quite a story.
Yeah. It's like I felt like a psychopath. Sometimes I'm sitting uploading. I sit and I upload. It's like, who are you uploading to? Like to Nimzovich, with this book. My System, for example, was probably by far my favorite book. And I find it very different from American edition. And like this Russian edition, it's such a thick book. And I was like, wow, this is like the best thing. I really just improve by 200 points by understanding this blockade, restrain, destroy. That's one of the main teaching there. So
And this would have been what, about 12 years ago, something like that?
No, so I'm 30 years old. And that would be 15 years old, 16 years old, yeah.
Okay, so computers were around. I mean, ChessBase wasn't quite the powerhouse it was now, but other people...
Exactly. Computer was around here, but not in Turkmenistan.
Wow, yeah, that's what I was leading up to. So
when did we really get computers? I mean, we had computers, but no chess programs. I mean, computer wouldn't help you. No internet, basically. In fact, there was no internet at all in Turkmenistan until I maybe just moved out of there. Maybe there appeared in some, locations.
So this maybe ties into we'll get back to the chess and to the army, but what was I've heard a little bit about the leader in Turkmenistan, and I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but what was the political situation like back then in your home country?
Back then was another president of the country. It was the Niyazov, Sapar Murat, and he passed away. I don't remember the year. It was for sport. It was rather okay. We would just be permitted to travel about 4 or 5 times a year. I would travel, let's say, 3-4 times, and I was totally satisfied with that. So for me, again, I'm young. I'm in my school. It didn't affect me in any way. So we were like basically free of doing things. We just had to ask permissions from the sport committee or to accommodate us, and we wouldn't be able to pay those expenses because it was, imagine like for a Turkmenistan guy, go to Europe, in France, for example, spend for hotel flight. I don't think it was possible to pool, but they give a support. There was a support.
Nice. Yeah,
it was a support. Okay, I have to be honest, it's not the best support in the world, of course, right? Like people here in the US, when you're best, you're like completely sponsored and stuff. We weren't paid, but we were really happy to go, and we were happy to represent the country. And then the new president became, and this was about the time when I was actually leaving the country. So I do know the situation about it. And speaking of now, if we're talking about in 2017, for the first time, Turkmenistan is going to hold a huge international event, which is called Asian Games. So it's going to be in September, and we're going to host 65 countries. And so it will be whole Asia and the whole Oceania. They spend a lot of time and money preparing for this event. So things are really changing right now. They're hiring all the coaches. For example, I can even reveal the coaches who are working with Turkmenistan guys is a super GM Dreyev, super coach, and very famous coach Sergei Tivyakov from Netherlands. So those are very two popular coaches. They are working with Turkmen athletes. I unfortunately cannot participate in these trainings because I'm here and it's hard to travel, But overall, of course, situation is really good right now there. So for athletes in these years who are doing something, it's quite a good time.
Well, it's nice to hear you even, it's nice to hear, I was going to say, you call chess players athletes, although I tend, every chess player has to have that conversation with someone sooner or later. I kind of think it's semantics, like, sort of who cares at some point what you call it. The bottom line is it's a very difficult pursuit that needs support, whether you call it a sport or not. But, it's nice to hear that it was supported despite it being a country that didn't have as many resources as someplace like the U.S.
Yeah, here how I see it, the athlete. So the part of a competition, right? So imagine this, you going for kind of Olympic Games or Asian Games, right? So imagine you have all these sports and chess going with them, right? So you wearing this uniform, like athlete uniform, you're recognized as a sport because you basically compete. It's like in a 12-hour-a-day competition. Other sports is like a 4 or 5 hour thing. In chess, if you're playing 2 rounds a day, it comes to like 8, 10 hours, 11 hours, depends, right, on the schedule or time control. So you have to show a tremendous, not just mental work, but the physical work. Who will be able to sit and, like, poker players, yes, they sit, like, say, have a session of 10 to 12 hours, and they know how hard it is to do it, like, for two weeks straight. And imagine you got to do this. So I, of course, consider chess players athletes because I know myself how physically well you have to be prepared to do well. Like, for example, if you're going to take Magnus Carlsen, Garry Kasparov, Vasilin Topalov, or Vishwanathan Anand, those are like the most physique people. Like they can endure anything. They run, they do tennis, they swim, they play soccer. They're super athletic because their physique is very strong. So I think it's something to do with athletes. Not the only thing is not making you super athlete is just because you don't like gain muscles by playing chess, or you like don't develop your body, let's say. But to perform well in the chess tournaments, you have to be prepared physically.
Yeah, for sure. And as you said, I think the younger generation in particular is really focusing on that now, and their results seem to be pretty good. So,
yeah, I always recommend my private students. I say, I really don't like when my students just do chess, let's say, right? I say, okay, what's the other activity? And they say, oh, I do swimming or I do tennis. Those are my like favorite, because I do know how they help develop the good stamina or other areas of the physical activity. So I don't like when, let's say, the parent says, oh, okay, he does this, and that.
Right.
Like, million things. Then you can't really catch up with, you can't really focus on something professional. But if they choose, let's say, chess and something else, that's the ideal situation. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's quickly get back to the army in Turkmenistan. So what was that experience like?
Experience, yes, it's an obligatory experience you have to be there for 2 years. 2 years for all those who didn't go to college. If you went to college and you're going to army after, it's only 1.5 years. And I was super lucky, I guess, because the division I went to, it was the divisions for athletes, basically. And it was very hard to get there. Every year they would only like get 12 people. So it's a very small division, you know. It's like, with total we had, let's say, 30 people there in total, right? And we all knew each other. It's all athletes. And this, like, if, for example, you're the best in your field, you'll get there, because it will just also allow you to do some trainings while you're in army. So, I mean, not everything is super sweet there. You're still going through some experience, you know, and this is the only thing I will not disclose, because the things are very different from the army here. Everything is like proper, you know, here, and things are there, you know, there's like inside real fights going on, and you get really humiliated, stuff like this. But it just makes you tougher, I guess, you know, like I'll tell you this, for example, the story. So when I get to US, right? I got to US. It was almost straight from the army, basically, right? So I got here and I like visit some families, and they ask me, Mesgen, what kind of a tea would you like? Black or like green? And then let's say, yeah, whatever, doesn't like green or black. And they say, okay, what with this flair? I mean, if they would just have any idea, we basically didn't have food there. Like, we had to just drink water. In the soup, for example, we just had like couple of floating flies. I don't know what else would be there. So it was just something that you go through. And now, like, after that experience, coming here by yourself is like almost nothing if you're going through this. So it was like whatever I ate here in the first years, like it was all like a restaurant for me. Like any fast food would be like McDonald's, for example, would be like, wow,
right,
McDonald's, like it's crazy. It's still kind of expensive for me. It was back then, like 10 years ago, but I never regret this experience. I would never take, this 1.5 years away from my life, because you learn things.
Get perspective, things. Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you one more story, but a funny story, okay? The very first day in my army. So I arrived at my division, and so obviously commander goes here, okay, sit down, we're going to like shave your head. No problem, yeah, I sat down, they shaved my head, right? And then that very evening, my brother and my mom came to visit me. So I went and I just saw them for like a couple minutes, like, hey, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And now as they're almost driving back, I'm coming back to the commander, and commander screams to me, Amanov, come here, run. And I'm like showing off, like I just walk. Uh-huh. He's like, run, I told you. And I'm like just walking. And so I approach him. He's like, why are you disobeying my orders? Like, you're in the army, you have to listen. I said like, oh, I didn't hear. And he's like, oh, you didn't hear. And that punishment, that very first day I got there, ever since I didn't disobey. So, like he told me to, to open the sleeves, basically. Like, you have to open your elbows, basically, right? And then you have to lay down and crawl for like a mile on these very sharp stones, and then of course everything was bloody, and so that was a good experience, good learning.
Yeah, I was cringing about halfway through that story, and it didn't disappoint. Man, that sounds awful. I guess you have to learn those lessons sometimes when you're young. But
it's good. It's good. It teaches some discipline. I mean, to some extent, is of course it shouldn't be like that. Maybe it's something that goes against the rights and stuff, but I don't regret that.
Okay, so you finish up the Army and you make your way to the U.S., and you mentioned that this was partially a chess decision. Did you feel like you knew you were going to pursue chess in the U.S., or were you just like, I just have to go somewhere where there's opportunity, and we'll see what that opportunity is?
Well, so I always somehow wanted to live in the U.S., and as you know, there's not that easy for immigrants. You have no visa, nothing. So, and back then I was only international master. So by the end of finishing the Army, I was international master. Rating probably was around 2,400. So I come to US for the tournament. I wrote to US Chess. Was a Bill Gochberg responded to me saying, yeah, come play. He sent me invitation. You have to go to embassy. It's not that easy to get a visa to the United States, but I got it. So I came. I played this tournament, very first tournament in Philadelphia. And I did like so-so, nothing special, okay? And my father's friend was living in Ohio, and we had this plan that after that tournament, I'll just go and see him and just stay there for like a few weeks and just see how do I like it, okay? So got there. He lived in Ohio.
So how'd you get from Philly to Ohio?
Oh, that was like a Greyhound. What is it?
Greyhound. Yeah.
Greyhound bus, exactly. Yes, just. Overnight, it was just like you have no idea.
How was your English back then?
English, I'll tell you like this. So when I came here, and here's how can I judge it. So when I went to my dad's friend, and he had a daughter, a small one, like 8 years old, and I tried to teach her chess because she only would speak English, and I would speak like this. Okay, you bring this here, and then you do that and this. So with this heavy Russian accent, and with some, of course, limits in vocabulary, but overall, like traveling around the world and having English in the school, and just like a high school, middle school, did help me with English. And now I do, of course, still have an accent, but
you've come a long way. Your English is very good. I was just curious, like if you were able to buy a bus ticket and stuff like that. But it sounds like that your English was good enough.
Yeah. People were helpful. I remember, and I got that, and got to Ohio, and so that Mentor, okay, that city, okay, it's near Cincinnati somewhere. It's like almost a village. Okay. And for 2-3 weeks, I had no idea what am I supposed to do there. Like, I'm just sitting in a house. I don't know anyone. The only attraction in the whole city is Walmart. That's all you get there, okay? And after 3 weeks, I almost made a decision. I said, oh, well, this is absolutely nothing what I expected here. I mean, U.S. is like nothing. I mean, like I saw in pictures or TVs with the huge buildings. Where is this all? Was disappointed, about to go back to Turkmenistan and just live my life. And then I was like, okay, let me just play one more tournament, right, before I leave. And I find this tournament in Chicago. And I find out that my brother has a friend in Chicago, and I reach him out and say, hey, Murat, can I stay can you find me a place for like 3 days? I mean, the idea of a hotel I didn't have in my mind, okay? Also, I have like maybe only $300 in my pocket. That's all I have. So I go to that tournament. So I go to Chicago. How did I get to Chicago? Probably as well Greyhound bus. And that was actually Team Just tournament in January 2008. I came to US 2007, and that was January 2008. And I played that tournament, and I won that tournament. I got clear first. It was like a prize fund, I remember very well, was like $500. And after, it was a 2-day tournament, and I was like, wow, I just made $500 in 2 days. What if I win every weekend a tournament for $500, and I'll get like $2,000 a month? And this is like unbelievable money for me. If I had been told back then, if I get $500 for the whole month, I would be still happy, because I had no perception of what is money is. Because in Turkmenistan, the salaries are $200,
right?
Just so you know, so to understand the money value, okay. And I got very lucky. That's an important story to tell. In this tournament, Team Just, I'm playing the last round against a boy, a very young boy, Alex Velikanov, who is now international master. So he was back then, I think, only 1900, and he somehow did well and got to the last round, and I played him, I beat him, and then I just called him and I said, like, hey, Sasha, do you want to analyze? And we analyzed the game for 20 minutes, and there was a man standing just listening to us. And then he approached me and said in Russian, he's asked me, do you teach chess? And I like, wow, you speak Russian? Like, I said, like, yeah, I taught in my country. She said, like, this is my son you just played. Would you like to come to Milwaukee and teach my son?
You said, do I teach chess? It was my major.
Yeah. So what I wanted to make a difference that I didn't teach here yet. But
I know. I'm just saying it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
One of the few people in the world who can say it's your major and he asks you if you teach it. But anyway, continue with your story.
So I said, yeah, that'll be fun. That'll be interesting. So where in Milwaukee do you live? Exchange address, and very next weekend I just already being in Chicago, just asking, like, you find some friends here and there, and it turned out that I kind of knew decent amount of people, and someone was willing to give me a ride to Milwaukee, and I went there, and I stayed there a couple days, and I was teaching this boy, Sasha, and he was my ever first student, and I was working for him for 4 years. He with me became like a 2300. He achieved like very good ranking, and through him I found many other students, and like then in Chicago I had more students, and it just spread out that I'm in town now, and not a bad teacher, producing some results. So that's how my story started here in the US.
That's an amazing story. I really enjoyed that. I have a few more detail questions, just because I feel like the little details are what really bring it home. So when you got to Milwaukee with this new student of yours, where did you stay then?
That's a very, very good point, and have to reveal some extra information. So back then in Turkmenistan, I was dating one girl. And after we already broke up back in there, and she moved to US accidentally. It just happened to be that I planned my life here, she planned her life there, and she happened to live in Milwaukee, And that very first night I was just telling, hey, because not the fact that I was very friendly with her, but I was very friendly with her dad. Mm-hmm. So his dad to me was like, we were like best friends, like really close. So of course he told me, like he made it like surprise for her, and like he didn't tell her. Of course I stayed at their house for the first night. It was just like a 1-day thing. And I also learned that actually just go back and forth and teach the boy. It's just like a 1 hour and 10-minute drive, so it's not a big deal. But that night I stayed there at my ex-girlfriend's house. Okay,
and you eventually found like an apartment, or?
In Milwaukee, no. In Chicago, that place where my brother's friend found the place, there was like another 2 guys were living. They were renting basically a first floor type basement from some Polish people, and there was just a 1-bedroom thing, and I was happy to live wherever. And I stayed in Chicago in that basement for another probably like 8 months. And I was happy. I was free. I was also happy that very friend of my brother, he actually had a very old car, 1990 Toyota Camry, which so old that it had a sign, honk if something falls, something like that. Right. So he just basically gifted it to me, and I was driving that car, no problem. So I was going back and forth, Milwaukee, Chicago. I just turned out that I had many more friends in Milwaukee, because there's a lot of people from Turkmenistan live in Milwaukee and Chicago. By a lot, I mean like 50 families. And I knew, let's say, 5 families from Chicago and 5 families in Milwaukee. So you just like get to know people. And I stayed at some friend's house in Milwaukee. And back in there, I had equal amount of students, had to go back and forth and teach. Okay.
And I imagine you've been back to Turkmenistan since then.
Yeah. Actually, it's an important piece. So after this first 8-10 months, I couldn't stay in US anymore, so I had to leave the country because my visa was about to expire. I left on the last day before my visa expired, and I went back to Turkmenistan, and now, I feel very weird. I had a very important decision to make because I'm already, let's say, 22 years old, yeah. Maybe, yeah, just turned 22, and I have to make an important decision where to live, like to do some business in Turkmenistan. I had one opportunity, or somehow come back in US and continue my career here. So I stayed in Turkmenistan for probably half a year, doing some stuff, studying chess very hard and playing some tournaments. And so that was a time when I was actually within this 8-10 months, I met Grandmaster Yuri Shulman. That's a very important information because thanks to him, I actually studied so many more hours with a really strong GM. And I felt very strong after this 8-10 months. And I felt like I'm playing like a Grandmaster strength now. I also played a lot of tournaments within this 8-10 months. And so when I was in Turkmenistan, I started playing some tournaments, more and more. And we had a trip to Ukraine. And this is a famous norm tournaments where about 70% of all chess grandmasters get their norms. And in Hungary, there's this. And I hear and I read in the internet a lot of suspicion about these tournaments, Ukraine GM norms tournaments. But if you think, actually, just 70% of the people actually got their norms because it just happens so often there. It's every week. You have GM norms every week. And you go into a nice place. It's right next to the sea. And you're playing. And those GMs, maybe not the best GMs. They don't really try hard, but you still have to beat them. So I got some norms there. Got my rating up. And the most important tournament was right in between when I was still in Turkmenistan. I went to Olympiad. And that was in Dresden, and it was by far the most amazing performance. I had 7.5 points out of 8, and I was going for the gold medal.
So and this is our first board of the Turkmenistan team?
That was actually fourth board.
Okay.
In Dresden, 2000. It was in 2008, end of 2008. Yes, I was 22 years old. So, and I knew if I'm going to get a gold medal, I have much higher chances now to get a green card because I was still planning to come back, of course, to US now and apply for a green card as an extraordinary alien. And I thought with the gold medal and the title of Grandmaster, I would certainly do so. But all I had to do, of course, when I had 7.5 points out of 8 and my rating performance was 27.38, there were only two people higher than me, Alexander Morozevich, the Super GM, and Gabriel Sargsyan, Grandmaster from Armenia. They had like 27.50 and 27.40 respectively, these ratings, and I was just a little bit behind them. If I don't just play my last round number 9, if I stay out and the other guys play because they drew, I would actually get my gold medal. The problem was we didn't have reserve players, so I had to play. And I played, and that was my most disappointing loss in my life, I can say for sure. We played against Australia, round number 9, and I missed the win. And like for about a month, I had this night dreams about this game that I missed the queen sacrifice. I actually don't even sacrifice it. I have to put the queen on price, but he cannot take it, and I would win the game. So with that, I still, of course, overdid my GM norms, and in this Olympiad, that helps me a lot. My rating went up, and coming back to US, I was already a Grandmaster. And I came to US again. And this time I'm hiring a lawyer, and he went over my case. He said, "Yeah, I mean, we have good chance. You're a Grandmaster. You have like." And back then in 2009, when I just got here, I was the second highest rated player after Hikaru Nakamura by the age. So there was no Ray Robson back then, no Josh Friedel, no other million like I don't know 20 young Grandmasters as we have now. In 2009, it was only Hikaru Nakamura. And with that, like in mind, we were hitting this as the youngest Grandmaster, like blah blah blah, all this stuff, and I got my green card basically. So, and that's how my life started here.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how do you like Chicago, by the way?
Chicago, I live in Glenview, so I don't live right in Chicago itself, but I love the city. I used to go there very often, downtowns and stuff. It used to be cold. It's not cold anymore for the last 2 years. It's actually awesome. It's amazing.
Pittsburgh's kind of the same way.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're just enjoying for the last 3 years, I guess. But before it was brutal. You know, the snow, like so many inches of snow from the car removing was cold, was brutal. Now I love it. I don't really see myself living anywhere. I do like weather in California, let's say. But with so many friends now here, I even have relatives now in Chicago, moved in after I moved in here. So it's too many things that are holding me here and connecting me here.
Yeah, it seems like a great chess city too.
Yes, and now especially we have how many grandmasters. So I'll just tell you how it's all started. So there was Dmitry Gurevich was the first GM who moved in here. Then it was Yuri Shulman with Grandmaster Nikola Mitkov. I was the fourth Grandmaster who got in here. After that, it was a big break, and we then saw another 4 or 5 GMs coming. So it was Goldin came here, Alexander Goldin, then Grandmaster Boris Avruch came here. Then Nadezhda Kosintseva and Leonid Krits came here, and I recently heard that they moved somewhere back out. And Vladimir Georgiev also came here. So yeah, 4 or 5 GMs came here ever since. So now we have about 7, 8 GMs.
Do you guys feel like you get in each other's way in terms of teaching opportunities?
That's a very good question. You know, a lot of people ask me this and think, you know, for me, it never made a difference because I'm always basically overbooked with lessons. I can teach anytime I want, basically. As for others, I don't think anyone compete here. I mean, we're so respectful to each other, especially like with all the GMs. I'm friendly with absolutely everyone. At some point, So I have this chess academy here in Glenview. I opened up like 5 years ago, and I think every single grandmaster who lived in Illinois taught here at my academy. Needless to say that there was other GMs from all around the United States who were teaching here too. So it's very friendly. I never felt any tension between grandmasters. I think maybe there's more competition going on a lower scale. Let's say when you're like a coach and you're like 2,200, 2,100. But Chicago is so big. You have so many students here. I don't think this is ever going to be enough coaches.
Good. That's good to hear. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that everyone's getting along. So with your academy, is there like a physical property?
Well, actually, so yeah, it is physical property, but it's the house that I used to live. First, when I opened it, it was in Glenview, and so I had this huge backyard, and I had a very big basement where it was just all chess academy. So it started, when did it start? What year was that? 2012, I would say, beginning January. And the idea was for me to do the group lessons like in Soviet countries, you know, everywhere else, and it was cozy for everyone. It worked out so perfectly. I had a very good feedback, and I would host every Saturday and Sunday group lessons in my basement, and I would have always like 10 to 12 students and divided by the group. So let's say if it's Saturday, I would have 1,300 to 1,800 coming on one day, and from on Sundays I would have 1,800 to 2,200 coming on Sunday. It worked out perfectly. I had every single kid that you know out there that are right now famous, including Wonder, Eric Rosen, Sam Schmeichel. There's many kids went through that, and it was good times.
Okay. And were you doing like tournaments there too, or camps, or was it just weekly lessons at the academy?
So actually it's just like a one-day camp, basically. And before, it used to be you had to commit to it. Let's say if I released a schedule of 10 sessions, you would have to commit to 10, or you're just saying, okay, I'm going to commit to 8, I'm going to commit to 6, and there was a different price. The more you commit, the lesser price. I hold it like that. And the idea was, so we would start at 10 a.m. and till 1 o'clock we'd have two separate lectures with a snack in between. And then we would have, after second lecture, we would have a lunch. I would order them pizza or whatever place they want. I even did some like sushi stuff, you know, for kids because they liked it. Then there was a fun time. We would go on the backyard and we'd just play for like 40 minutes, like soccer, or we'd play ultimate frisbee, whatever we wanted, we just played. And when we got back, we would play a tournament game, which is not rated, but tournament game still. And after that tournament game, we would analyze every single game. So it was like from 10 to 4:30 experience, 6.5 hours of chess.
Yeah. No joke. Hard work.
No joke. Hard work. I really dedicate to that. And I think parents loved it because they could just bring their child here and have their own time for like 6.5 hours. And they know they're safe. They're in the house. There's many kids. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I can relate to that as a parent for sure. So you mentioned the different pricing based on how many classes you took, and that makes me think of your website, ImproveMyChess.com. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how that came into existence?
Oh, that's a great moment of my life, I guess, when it all began. So 2014, December, one guy that I just knew, that I knew that he's there. I played him chess once before. He is like a 1950 rated player. His name is Gary Aronovich. He's my partner right now, and he wrote to me on Skype saying, "Hey, Mesgen, like, I would like to talk to you about something." And I said, "Yeah, like, let's talk." And in early January, we had a very serious Skype conversation where he said, like, I have this idea. Like, didn't you think, like, did you ever wanted to do something like that? And I said, like, yeah, like, believe it or not, I actually was asked to record some lessons, do some DVDs and stuff like that. I was approached many times, but I always wanted to be this my own thing. Like, I never wanted to do it for someone else, because I did already know that my potential as a coach is pretty strong. So I didn't want to work for anyone. So the idea was that we would be partners and we would just develop the whole new thing. And the whole new thing, the whole main idea was that this is a membership site. So we were the first one to actually do a complete membership site, like a Netflix, basically, where you pay a certain fee in the month and you will receive structured lessons. And so that started in 2015 January, and in 2015 in September, we launched our site. So it took us 9 months of hard work of producing some content to begin with, and to basically start with a scratch. You have no one to copy. Like, we didn't have anything to copy. We had to figure out a lot of things. And Gary he's a technological guy. He's a technological guru. He understands he didn't have experience in doing any chess, anything like that, but he knows how the things works, how to build a site, how to do some kind of marketing, email gathering, all this stuff. So it's a 9 month of hard work. And in September, we just opened up. I remember we sent a blast to uschess.org for like 16,000 people, and we got immediate feedback. Some people immediately signed up. And that's how the journey began, Well,
it seems like Gary has given you some good advice. I mean, one thing I noticed that it was sort of a different business model than a lot of people use. And, the site looks very professional. I noticed that you're one of the only ones that at least I can think of that advertises on YouTube. So a lot of business things that seem to me to be fairly like natural things to do that you've been out in front on. So I commend you and Gary both for the work you've done on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And you mentioned, sorry, just a quick one more. A related question. You mentioned that there was nothing like it, but I was curious if Gary, in his experience in other fields, if there was some template he was able to draw from in a different field other than chess for helping you develop this business.
That's perfect. Yes, perfect question. In fact, yes, our model, I'm going to reveal this a little bit. It was a poker model. And you know how poker is advanced right now with all this membership sites.
Oh, yeah. So like Card Runners and Blue Fire Poker and all the rest.
Yeah. There's so many. And we just like how this one guy doing this. And it's so simple. The guy wasn't even like anything good. I would just put him as a 2,000 player, let's say, right? But his business model was so good. And we basically, what we were doing, we were watching tons of videos on these famous guys how things are done, what you start with, because everything you start with a scratch. And I was writing down everything with a piece of, before doing anything, we would have to watch tons of material that is like expensive material to watch, but we've done this all. And it's good that Gary knew these things, like who to watch, who to follow, and how to do it. So, of course, I got lucky that I got approached by a really right person, a real professional.
Yeah. So do you mind saying which poker site it was?
I do not mind saying it's called Transform My Poker.
Okay, yeah, as I think we talked about a little before we recorded, I played poker for a long time, but I wasn't familiar with that one.
But yeah, that's the site. It's not. I don't know if that's so, because the guy is not famous at all, but the business model works.
Mm-hmm. And I guess your chess model is working as well.
Model works so well that I don't know if it's right to say, hard to believe, but when you start something like that, a startup, right? And we didn't know what we were doing. Like in 2015, when in the first couple of months, we just had like a few students, right, doing this and sending us some emails. And the hardest part, I think, is how to really get people into this, right? To make sure that it's a good thing. It's not just like a random videos for you, that to let them really believe that there's real effort is in taking, because I say this in my site that just to present one video, I have to spend like 8 hours. I have to make a lot of research, and then I have to structure my lesson. Then I have to write things down, and then I have to know exactly when I'm going to ask a question. And after I record, I have to also edit it. So the whole experience, it at least takes 8 hours versus, let's say, normal, when you're watching any normal, just a video course, when the Grandmaster is just invited to do lessons, what they do, they just pay them a fee and they just have to record the lesson. And they don't do any edits, they don't do much preparation, they just do it 1 hour, goodbye. So the idea was to approach it completely differently. And when I edit, like I cut absolutely everything. There's no single like that stuff. Like I'm such a, I don't know, psycho that I remove everything. So to make it perfect.
And do you do the editing yourself?
I do always editing myself. And I don't think ever anyone would be able to do it, because the complexity that you're going sometimes over a very difficult variation, you made a mistake. Let's say, who would know that there was a mistake, a tiny mistake, right? And I have to somehow go around it, cut it out, re-record, and very complex things to do. Yeah.
So it's a pretty inspiring story, I guess. And you're doing lots of teaching on your own as well. You mentioned like with private students around Chicago and stuff like that. So are you still finding time to make new material for Improve My Chess?
So after first 12 years of ImproveMyChess.com, so I recorded all the lessons. Basically, it's 5 lessons each month, so I recorded 60 lessons for the full year. And then after 1 year, we start really realizing, first of all, not like I would have unlimited resources, right? But I would have to do the openings finally. And from second year, I started doing enormous amount of research on openings. And I did record, or I'm right now on a third course. I already did record 2 full opening courses with one D4 opening complete repertoire, and the second was C5, Sicilian defense. And right now I'm working against D4. So I'm doing Slav and semi-Slav. I'm almost done. I have to just another couple of weeks and I'll be done with this third course, and then I'll be done with openings. So after that, I really don't know what's going to be with me recording. I still have ideas. I didn't do like endgame courses like that, but I want to be done first with these opening courses. And this is by far, this was a blast. The people, with the amount of feedback we got on these openings, people were just like, they say there's nothing near close like this quality, because I basically gave away all my secrets. This novelties I made, this very deep research. I wasn't treating them like beginners, I wasn't treating them like 2000s. I gave away my stuff, the preparation of 2600. So it was like I basically didn't leave anything for myself now to surprise anyone. I just gave it away, and I'm pretty sure those who watching those videos a few times, if they can remember, the immediate level of opening would be like 2400, no doubt.
And do you have a philosophy about how important different phases of the games are for students to learn? Like,
I did so many experiments with students. Some I teach chess through openings, let's say. I used to do that, right? I would just explain them many different things through opening. Many students I taught through endgame chess, and some from middle game. I just keep doing always experiments, and I'm just seeing the best results. I would like to mention one kid I'm working right now. His name is Aaron Emrican. So he is now in January, he turned 7 years old. And in March, just this past March, his highest rated was 1899. So the kid just turned 7 years old, and he's 1899. It's by far the world record. We didn't advertise this ever, actually. You're the first one right now who is hearing this right now, and then everyone on the podcast would hear this. And he beat the record by a wonder by 150 points at the same age. A Wonder Liang was the world champion that I used to work too. And I don't know if I want to reveal all the secrets of how things are done. But I definitely realized something, that what you could do and what 99.9% coaches don't do. Like a real challenge. When you're really set, when you're ambitious, and you can talk to a kid and say, do you want to be the best in the world? And the kid says, we can try. You start doing something that you see the other coaches don't do. And we did that, and
this is quite a tease.
Yeah, it's quite a tease. Okay, I'll just give one away. Okay, one technique away.
Okay.
So tell me, Ben, do you like solving studies? Not puzzles, studies.
I'm going to be honest, they're not my favorite thing.
Exactly. Those are hard, right?
Yeah.
Those are like so hard. You can sit like a couple hours just doing one.
Someone else can. I can't.
So it is extremely hard, but there's one detail about the studies. Study reveals the beauty of chess. And the most expand how chess could possibly be beautiful, you can see in endgame, in endgame studies, because unbelievable things happen, right?
Right.
You have to bend your brain in such a weird way, ask yourself such impossible questions in order to solve one. And imagine this: you give a study to a 6 or 5 years old, and you say to him, this is going to take you a couple days, but I want you to find the truth. And the kid comes back to you in one day saying, I spent 3 hours doing this and I found it. And you're onto something with this. That there is a true dedication. He did ask himself these weird questions to get it. It's all a real, real hard work. Not many people are willing to do it. But those who are willing and they want to say, I want to try, let's say I want to be the best in the world, they have to do something that others don't do. And this is my philosophy of teaching. I do talk to students. I don't work with any student I see in the first day. We have like a first tryout lesson. If I see kid really loves chess, I take the student. If I see it has something to do with parents involved, being more involved than kid, I try to suggest other coaches. For me, at this point right now, money doesn't matter. I will still have kids. I want this satisfaction. I want the result. I want kid to be excited. I want him to have a goal. And these are the rules. I always say when the student comes, I say, I just want you to know your parents are not hiring me. I'm hiring you. If you fail, I'm done with you. So this is a kind of a deal we have in the beginning. And when I see kid is like willing to be okay with that and be happy about that, then we're becoming a good team.
Good for you. That's a good attitude.
Yeah, that's a good attitude. It takes years. I just never wanted to stay as just a coach because, I admire Mark Dvoretsky and I admire Mikhail Botvinnik as a coaches. They did such amount of work on the coaching, right? And also Artur Yusupov. I admire their work. I know what it takes to become a really good coach. There's many grandmasters, but there's not many brilliant coaches. And I never wanted to stop as a coach, like just to, passing the days was just teaching same thing. You always want to experiment. You always want to see like where is the limit of yours as a chess coach. And for that reason, I actually took the challenge. I remember about 7 years ago, I made myself a promise. I said, I will never just teach just for money. I really want to be into it in the process. I want to be in my students' mind. And if I'll be able to keep doing this, we will be producing results. So ever since it's working, and I don't plan to give up this philosophy or idea. I really looking forward to lessons, and I just want to sit on the lessons. I want to do it, because when you're actually working really hard, the time goes so fast. And if you're just sitting and not doing much, just like doing stupid things, like showing stupid stuff, then it's also boring.
So what do you do to make yourself a better teacher? You have any advice? Or
it's an ambition. It's a motivation. You know, I was never okay with just being a coach, because I know how much a regular coach does, how much money he makes. And okay, let's just talk. How much a normal grandmaster charge? Let's say, what the prices do you know, Ben?
90, 100 an hour, something like that.
Those are very good grandmasters, and like states like, you know, cities like New York, you know, where it's very developed. In normal, let's say, average is absolute like 80, 75, 85. Okay, in New York is always more.
Right.
So if we just take any $80 an hour, and what do you see? You're gonna see, let's say, 4 hours a day. You're gonna teach, right? You're gonna make multiplication. Then you'll see how much you'll make in a year, right? But it's never satisfactory if you're ambitious, if you want to do more. So how can you make more? You have to ask yourself, you have to produce results so other people can start reaching out, and more people will start reaching out, and you can just raise the price. And I don't think I charge much. I charge $100 right now an hour. Okay. And if I just want to, I can probably go higher, just because there's already a line of students. And it's all because I have this program. It's a little bit unfair, like, to treat me as a normal coach, because I have this program. I have so much more clients to reaching me out.
You're referring to your Improve My Chess, right?
Improving My Chess, yes, because people asking every day. I see email like, "Hey, Mesgen, like, how much do you charge for a private lesson?" You know, like this. And sometimes I kind of mostly want to work with kids, because I know there's something great can come out of this. Because if you're working with an adult, you know, he has a life, he has kids, he has family, he has things to do, you know. He will not dedicate 2 hours a day in a chess, you know. It's not going to happen. So that means we will not see a great result. I'll just help him a little bit, but it's not going to be something that I really look for. So I really look into this, like, young kids that are like has talents, or who just really loves chess, because their life changing, because they become more happy, they have something to look for. So it just the matter of ambition. If you're satisfied making, let's say, $80 an hour and just teach, I wasn't, and hence that's why I did this program, ImproveMyChesscom, and I will not stay on this price of $100. The time is the most valuable thing. Of course, we all know that, and so it's a discipline, basically. You know, like I had this mindset, you know, just to work hard, and
you've come a long way from the fly soup in Turkmenistan.
Yes. or let's say a $30 an hour. My first student is Sasha Velikanov. I was charging him $30 an hour.
Right. So, yeah. Well, good for you. And as we record this is going to come out Tuesday, May 10th or something like that. And you're heading to Super Nationals next week, you mentioned. So what brings you there?
Super National. So I actually been to the 2 last Super Nationals. I was there in 2009, 2013, and now 2017. So I haven't skipped one yet.
I should clarify for listeners from outside the U.S., this is the biggest scholastic tournament probably in the world. It's some years they have separate national championship tournaments in the U.S. for elementary school level, junior high level, and high school level. And then some years they combine them all, and they call those Super Nationals. So that's what we're talking about. But anyway, go ahead, Mesgen.
And by far the largest event in the world. So we can ask them to guess the number and in their mind, you know, how many students are playing. So this year it's a world record breaking. 5,500 students are playing in this event.
It is amazing.
So you imagine you have 5,500 kids and another like at least 5,000 parents, you know, and you have like 10,000 people in this one resort playing all sections, everything. Huge event. And before I was going as a coach. In 2009, I went just with one private student and I was just helping out. I was paid and I helped out. In 2013, I just went there. I had about a group of 12 private students. and I just paid my own everything. I just sat there and I analyzed all day. I was just doing it for my students. This time, I'm going and I'm going to promote ImproveMyChess.com. And I'm going to help out my private students, going over their games as much time as I have. So it's going to be super busy. We're going to have our own booth there. If by any chance someone will hear this podcast and planning to go to the Super Nationals, of course, I would come to say hi and just tell me that you heard this podcast. It will be amazing, of course. So we're going to be promoting that, and there will be other companies like Chess.com, ICC, some other companies, I guess. So it'll be
sounds exciting. Good. Yeah, exciting for sure. Okay, well, I've only got a couple other topics to talk about. You mentioned we talked about poker a little. So were you a poker player?
I'm not obviously a professional poker player. I don't make money out of this, but I'm more of on the plus side when I go. And I don't play anything crazy. I play mostly 1-2, 2-5, and it's just a cash game. And it depends on the time. Let's say when I have a lot of recording and work to do, I don't go. When I'm just too tired out of chess, it's chess everywhere, I just go and play poker. I just sit for like 8-hour session and forget about chess, listen to some nice music, and I play and enjoy.
Okay.
I mean, because I also I read a few books, watching a lot of YouTube videos, like subscribe for some channels on YouTube. I like the game. It's similar to chess.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be enjoyable to study. Sometimes I feel like it's more interesting as an academic pursuit than to actually, play 40 hours a week or something like that.
Yeah. For me, most exciting part, maybe psychological part. I really like this. I'm watching them. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to recognize the tells, It doesn't mean that I'm always right or anything, but it's just a factor of how people try to disguise something, or they trying to give a fake information with their body language, trying to lure you into something. It's just a fun.
Yeah.
It's a big fun of part of my life. I really like it. I wish I could do more, but at the end of the day, I just ask myself, I sit there and I play, but what useful I could be done instead?
Yeah.
And that's the question in my mind. And I was like, I know for sure there's so many more useful things I could do to improve my life, actually, But it's just a fun part. Yeah. Nothing to do with making money and just trying to have fun.
So any other hobbies? What else are you into with your free time?
Well, since I was in this sport university, which is called Tourism and Sport University, from age 15, I'm never skipped the gym, basically. So now half of my life I'm doing gym. I don't skip it ever. I just sometimes maybe skip it for a month or two, that's all. But I regularly go to gym, like say 4 or 5 times a week. It's my free time, something that just like anytime I have like an hour free,
okay.
I'm trying to sneak into the gym and just work out.
You lifting weights or doing cardio or what?
Yeah, I'm mostly doing lifting weights. I like to swim, but the weather in Chicago, you don't always enjoy doing that. Mostly just lifting. I was into arm wrestling for the period of my college life. I somehow was unbeatable for 4 years. They were always making jokes of how chess player could do arm wrestling and never lose
a set,
funny. Yeah, so I did that. I enjoyed that. I also play ping pong, table tennis, and to this day, none of the chess grandmasters or international masters ever beaten me yet. The only guy who beats me in ping pong, and I'm so pissed, is Gary, my partner, Gary Amanov.
Oh, funny.
So he's a good ping pong player. He plays tennis, but he beats me badly in table tennis. So I stopped playing him. But other than that, I'm decent.
Okay. So Mesgen, we're about out of time, but you did mention some stories at the beginning, some Grandmaster stories. Do you have any that spring to mind before you go? I know that this isn't really in context, but if you have
I'll tell you this. There are some really crazy stories, but I don't know if I can reveal names.
That was what Simon Williams said when I had him as a guest. That's well, if you want to tell a story without names, I think people still might enjoy it.
I'll tell you one story that I was like, but you kind of have to maybe see impressions, but you also have to know the Grandmaster. It makes it much more funny. But okay, story told me by my very good friend. Okay, I reveal his name. This was Alexander Shabalov, who told the story, who was in the story, okay?
Okay.
So Alex Shabalov, so it was 1990th a year. Him and 2 other grandmasters traveling to South America, one of the countries. It's unrelated. And it's a 10-day tournament, zone tournament. Whoever qualifies plays a World Cup, okay? So he goes with these 2 GMs, and on the first day, they going to the store to buy vodka, you know. So Russian GMs, they need that.
Right.
There's no other way. And they're trying to measure, you know. They're trying to measure how much vodka do they need for 10 days for 3 of them. So they decided on a gallon, okay? The gallon, huge gallon vodka in the supermarket. So they buy that and they go home on the first evening, each of them having 30 grams of vodka, like 1 shot, okay? And Shabalov and the other grandmaster goes to sleep upstairs, and the one GM decided to stay for a little bit, okay? So after 7 hours in the morning, Shabalov wakes up, okay? He wakes up and he goes downstairs, and he sees a bottle. He cannot really see, is it like still full or it's like absolutely empty? He can't understand. So he approaches the bottle. He lifts this bottle, and there's like a tiny, tiny little bit of vodka left. And he's trying to understand, like maybe they spill it somewhere, right? What happened? Where did the whole gallon of vodka gone? And then he sees the TV, like so loudly working, and some French commentary is going on. And none of them speaking French, by the way. So very loud French news going on. And then he sees on the sofa these grandmasters, okay? He's absolutely naked. He's absolutely naked. And he has only 1 tie on him. Just imagine, a dress tie.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Tie,
yes.
He's naked. He's asking him, hey man, are you okay? And he's like turning on him, putting his finger to his nose and does this, shh, I'm watching news. And then he's like, he couldn't understand. In his mind, like, what news are you watching? It's 8 a.m. in the morning. In 2 hours, you have a game. Where's the whole vodka? And why is it on French? You don't even speak French, you know? And he's like, shh, doing with this, like, get out of here. Like, I'm listening, you know, to something important. So it was so funny that he goes upstairs just to prepare for the round. And he comes down with another GM and they see him preparing some breakfast. Like nothing happened.
Huh.
Nothing happened. Like, he said, hey guys, let's go eat. And they ate the breakfast. They don't talk about this. They don't talk, where's the vodka? Like, they don't talk anything, right? And the most beautiful part of the story, that person, so he plays his first round against international master, and he wins the most beautiful game with an isolated pawn. And ever since, Shabalov tells me that he shows to all his students that game, the most beautiful game. And the whole gallon vodka was in him.
Wow.
Amazing. So, and with the face expressions, how he did this all. And you know, you see, the thing is, like, I'm going to tell you now. I'm going to tell you now after this podcast, who was this, right? We're going to be amazing teaser. I know people are like, oh, who is this guy? I want to know. I can't do this.
Well, people are going to be researching. People are going to try to get to the bottom of it one way or the other.
Yeah. They're going to maybe reach Shabalov and start say Mesgen said about who was this guy, but I don't know if anyone will ever reveal this, but it's...
Excellent. All right. Yeah, I know a lot goes on these road trips. So,
yeah. And you do realize there's tons of stories like this that it's just like endless. There could be like some podcasts for just stories like this, and there's amazing stories.
Well, yeah, when you listen to the poker podcasts, they come out from amongst the poker players, but chess players play it a little tighter to the vest, I think, because a lot of them are chess educators. So
yeah. You see, there's this element. There's like, you know, they teach kids. You know, that GM that I was talking to, he's teaching kids. Like, this cannot be really well.
Yeah. Okay. One more for the road for listeners who are looking for like a book to improve, or like a studying tip that you have for them. Any parting advice for some young, motivated chess player?
Okay. Books. For example, always I recommend this. It's called Mammoth: The Greatest Chess Games. It's the series of 125 games, best games ever played in my opinion, annotated very well, and presented. So it goes from like 19th century to recent games, and every game has a beautiful idea. So strongly recommend that.
Mammoth, like woolly mammoth?
It's called the Mammoth.
Okay, you never heard of it. Wow.
Yeah, the Mammoth, the greatest chess games.
Okay.
For sure that. Best puzzle book by Shaw. It's called Quality Chess Puzzles.
Okay.
By Shaw. S-H-A-W, this guy. Other books, of course, like the Positional Chess. Oh, of course, Artur Yusupov, Mark Dvoretsky, all their books are best, like zero doubt, go for it anytime. And it would be wrong not to recommend my program, ImproveMyChess.com, of course. If you're looking for the videos, this is where you should just check it out. Everyone, I think, should check it out. There's a free course, and there's 3 lessons. You can have a taste of how I teach, and then you can decide for yourself if this is something you like.
Great. Okay. And is that the best way to reach you? Just go to your site and fill out the form if people have questions? Or
Yeah, they just go and they enter their email, and then they hit send me the video, and they will receive the videos from me, and then I already will start sending some emails. And they can always reply, and I will be always personally replying to those emails.
Great. Well, Mesgen, thanks a lot for coming on. Thanks for the stories. Your story's amazing, and I get the feeling you have a lot more that maybe you can reveal to me offline.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was joyful. I never did podcast before, and Ben, I would like to personally thank you for doing this for all of the listeners, because I really don't know like any other chess source who would actually reveal the lives of the people and the stories, because in the book or anywhere else on a course you can just put so little of just chess, you know? But this casual type thing is very relaxing. It's I myself, let's say, like everyone loves to listen to podcasts, and if you're interested in chess, listening to chess podcasts is just the best thing, I think. So thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you, Mesgen, and good luck. Have fun at Super Nationals, and we will talk again someday.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Perpetual Chess. To hear more episodes, give feedback, or suggest guests, go to perpetualchesspod.com. If you like the show, please help me out by telling your friends and giving me a high rating on iTunes. I'll be back next week with another episode of the Perpetual Chess Podcast.